Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Hope you are well and keeping safe. Today we are going to talk about one of the most influential socio-political thought of 20th century, that is feminism. The session is primarily aimed at students majoring in English. However, students of sociology, political sciences, and law may find it useful as well. You may pause the video at any point and take a note of the content that is being shared with you on the screen. The session is divided into three major chunks. In the beginning, we will talk about genealogy of the concept. Then we will move towards the historical development of the idea. And we will conclude with providing you the contemporary developments in the field like post-feminism, Islamic feminism, and Islamic post-feminism. So let's get started. In the classical philosophy, Platonians argue that men oppressed women by not acknowledging their contributions in human development. There was no use of the term feminism as such. However, the discourse on the rights or conditions of women we can trace in the classical philosophy. On the contrary to Platonians, Cartesians are of the view that female oppression is psychological in nature. If women do not convince themselves to be subservient to men, they can combat this oppression. Most of the scholars who have tried defining the concept, although there are quite a few definitions of feminism available, so without going into the details of those definition, a general definition for the sake of today's discussion that we will follow is that feminism is a woman's struggle to combat male-inflicted oppression. Male-inflicted oppression. Okay? And then feminism can be calibrated or understood or discussed on two fronts, academic front and activist front. Academics provide epistemological grounds of feminism, ideological grounds of feminism, whereas activists implement those ideas to better women's lives. So activists go in the field and talk about women's rights, whereas academics formulate those ideas. So some of our movements, contemporary movements of women's rights are not academically informed. So that is why this on surface appear a bit shallow. We can talk separately on feminist movements in Pakistani context at some other point. So generally, when we talk about historical development of feminism, there are three waves of feminism or three phases of feminism. The first wave started in mid 19th century or early 20th century with suffragette movement, in which women started to ask for right of vote. They wanted to be a part of political process. Mary Wollstonecraft's book Vindication of the Rights of Women is considered as the pioneer text of feminist movement. Two major accomplishments that women achieved in the first wave are Infant Custody Bill 1839 and Matrimonial Cause Act 1857. In Infant Custody Bill, women were given right to have the custody of their children in case of separation. Whereas in Matrimonial Cause Act, women were not to give justifications if they were to separate in a matrimonial bond. These two rights were not possible to attain before first wave movement or first wave phase of feminism. Moving onwards in 1960s, the agenda of feminism broadened and it became socio-political and economic in nature. Betty Friedan, 1965's book Feminist Mystique is considered as one important text of the second wave. Betty Friedan did a research on her colleagues and tried listing down all those problems and the circumstances that women of that time were to face. She then called the situation that women were in as feminine mystique, that it was a situation that was a complicated phenomenon that could not be listed down very easily. So there were multiple aspects attached to the condition that women were in 1960s onwards. She then went on to form an organization that was called National Organization for Women in 1966. Simone de Beauvoir's text Second Sex, 1988, and Kate Millett's Sexual Politics, 1970, is also um, considered as one of the most important texts, academically speaking, of the second wave. Kate Millett was more concerned with political participation of women, whereas Simone de Beauvoir was fighting on cultural front. We also find Marxist, liberalist, and radicalist tendencies in second wave feminist agenda. Women started to fight for equal wages, and some of them wanted, those who are called radicalist, an overhauling of the entire system, a revolution you may call it. Whereas liberalists were of the view that complementary nature of men and women's relationship must be acknowledged. The transition of second wave into the third wave of feminism is um, marked with feminist diversity. Those groups of women who were earlier ignored in the feminist agenda now started to voice their concerns as well. So in 1980s, that is considered to be the emergence of third wave, although the start of one wave does not mean the culmination of the previous one. So in third wave, we see that women belonging to marginalized segments of society, like Muslim women, Black women, Asian women, started to own the concept. So it became more inclusive. It became more pluralistic in nature. Some of the influential texts of third wave are Bell Hooks' book, in which she talks about inclusivity, 1984, and Graham Greer's book, The Whole Woman, 1999, in which she ironically does not only um, propagate the notions of plurality, but also criticizes the third wave's agenda in a way that she believes that branching out feminism into different ethnic versions of feminism may dilute the concept. So diversity may result into dilution of the feminist unity or the feminist sisterhood. Some non-white scholars like Gayatri Spivak Chandra Mohante, and others also became a part of third wave feminist movement. LGBTQ community, people belonging to different social and economic classes, Muslims, blacks, and all those marginalized groups that earlier were not a part of feminist front now started to become more visible. In the spirit of third wave, and in the spirit of a pluralistic agenda, one offshoot of third wave is Islamic feminism. So, Islamic feminism challenges the objectification of Muslim women. And in Islamic feminism, Muslim women reclaim their rights that are given to them by Islam and Quran, but patriarchal societies and conditions that they live in divide them from these rights. This infographic might help you in understanding the hierarchy of Islamic feminism in the global feminism or global feminist thought. So, feminism, this larger semicircle, includes post colonial feminism and Islamic feminism. The agenda of feminism, as we discussed earlier, is on two fronts. One is ideology, the other one is activism. Post-colonial feminism is a movement that tries to decolonize feminist thought and incorporate indigenous agenda. The agenda of all those groups that earlier were not considered as a part of feminism. And Islamic feminism in this hierarchy is a part of post-colonial feminism and obviously feminism as well. Islamic feminism is reforming religion and focusing on Muslim women. Now, when we talk about Muslim women, it's not a monolith. It's quite diverse of a concept to understand Muslim women because one, the very understanding of Islam itself is quite diverse, and the conditions that Muslim women live in, culturally speaking, are also quite multifarious in nature. So there is this very debate that what Islam and which Muslim women do we talk about when we talk about Islamic feminism. That is the reason that sometimes there is this huge nomenclature debate that Muslim women, those who work for the rights of women who are believers of the faith of Islam, do not want to be called as Islamic feminists because they believe that Islam intrinsically has given them these rights. So we do not need to, use this Western nomenclature of feminism, and then prefix Islam with that in order to talk about the rights of women. Islamic feminism is not a coherent identity, but rather a contingent, contextually determined strategic self positioning. Actions, behaviors, pieces of writing that bridge religious and gender issues in order to create conditions in which justice and freedom may prevail do not translate into a seamless identity. So, feminism is more of an attitude, is more of a line of action than an identity. Here you can see that some of the scholars who are resisting the label Islamic feminism, although they are on the forefront of advocating the rights of Muslim women. However, they do not want to be called Islamic feminists. Amina Wadud, Fatima Barnisi, Asma Burles. Rifat Hassan and Fatima Sita. On the contrary, there is a group of Muslim women scholars who are comfortable with using the label Islamic feminism as their identity marker. Asia Jabbar, Zeba Mir Hussaini, Mariam Cook, and Margaret Badran. Islamic feminism begins with critiquing the existing sources of knowledge. So, epistemological grounds of feminism begin with critiquing existing sources. And these sources include Quran, culture, basically the understanding or the Quranic exegesis that are uh, mainly male dominant Quranic exegesis. Culture that is patriarchal in nature, classical Islamic jurisprudence that they think needs revision. Hadiths, they are of the view that some of the hadiths are zaif, they are weak. Fiqh, they believe that is again male dominated. Um, some of the some of the um, some of the instructions that are there in fiqh regarding women and their rights must be interpreted by women, not by men. Same is the case with Sharia, that it's male centered. Women have no place and no role in matters that matter to them a lot. Then they provide this revisionist model in which ijtihad, tafsir, linguistics, history, literary criticism, sociology, anthropology, all are playing their role in formulation of the concept of Islamic feminist discourse. Moving onwards, there is this bifurcation between Muslim Islamic feminists and Muslim secular feminists. I won't go into the details of every single point that is encapsulated in this comprehensive infographic. I would recommend that you guys go through the readings that are being assigned to you, and then most of these points will make sense to you. Just want to keep our discussion a little precise at this moment. So I'll very sort of in simplified version try to give you the ideas that what is the difference between Muslim Islamic feminism and Muslim secular feminism. Muslim Islamic feminism relies on ijtihad and Islamic sources in order to give the agenda for rights of Muslim women. So Muslim Islamic feminists are those who rely on religious Islamic sources like Quran, Hadith, Fiqh in order to advocate the rights of Muslim women. Whereas those who are called Muslim secular feminists, we also call them uh, Muslim feminists. So one, Islamic feminism, and then Muslim feminism. Islamic feminism relies on religious sources, whereas Muslim feminism or Muslim feminists are those who are by faith Muslim, but they rely on liberal humanist discourse patterns in order to advocate the rights of Muslim women. So it's more like conforming with a global feminist agenda, but their focus is, or their target audience is Muslim women. So that is in nutshell the difference between Islamic feminism and Muslim feminism. These Muslim feminists or slash Islamic feminists are not having a smooth sailing There is criticism on them from multiple fronts. Secularists call them Islamic fundamentalists. West is again of the view that um, they should rather um, assimilate with the ideas that are, strengthen the global um, feminist sisterhood. This offshoot of Muslim feminism or Islamic feminism is not serving the cause of feminism. So this is the criticism by West. Islamist women consider Muslim and Islamic feminism a digression or deviation from Islam. Same is the view of Islamist men that these Islamic feminists are trying to incorporate the elements in Islam that are against the spirit of Islam. So, this is the critique that Muslim feminists have to face. Moving onwards, post feminism, it's the recent form of feminism, you can say, or as it is highlighted in the text, post feminism is feminist today. As an ideology, it is emerging and evolving. So there is no sort of fixed understanding of post feminism. It's a concept that is still in its infancy. It's developing, it's evolving, and that is why there are multiple definitional possibilities. So we do not want to, at this point, limit ourselves by defining the concept of post-feminism, because that will be very essentialist in nature if we try pinning down one definition of post-feminism. In general, we can look at some of the features that are prevalent in post-feminism. So post-feminism is considered as backlash against feminism. In post-feminism, women are celebrating their femininity and body and beauty and domesticity. So all those things that, or all those agendas that were earlier not a part of feminism, rather feminists were considered to be devoiding women from these aspects of life, like celebrating their beauty, femininity and body and domesticity, now started to become important again. So domesticity became fashionable in post-feminism. Post-feminist agenda is also considered to be individualistic in nature rather than a global sisterhood, um, you know, being um, highlighted in the feminist agenda. Some people confuse the prefix post in post-feminism as the end of feminism, just like post-colonialism, post-structuralism. So it's not so it should not be taken as the end of feminism, rather a new phase of feminism. So there are three implications of the prefix post in post-feminism. One, discontinuation of feminist tradition. Second, it's a phase in the development of feminist thought. Third, an ambivalent positionality. Yeah, I mean, in which women sometimes disassociate themselves with feminism. A definite definition of post-feminism is not possible, as we talked about earlier, because the suffix feminism in post-feminism too lacks an agreed upon definition. Some people are of the view that the beauty of feminism, post-feminism, is its diversity. So it's a continuation of third wave in which um, diversity is a trademark. So diversity of feminist facets is acknowledged in post-feminism. Still another group is of the view that women have achieved their objectives and their goals that they were trying to achieve through various waves of feminism. So now we have entered into a post-feminist era. When we try viewing fiction, English fiction mainly, through the lens of post-feminism, so we call it chick lit fiction. So the fiction that is courageous, playful, frank, honest, intelligent, sophisticated, libidinous, unapologetic, and overwhelmingly emancipating. So these are some of the features that you may find in post-feminist literature. So such literature is also called chick literature or chick lit fiction. This chick lit tradition, you can trace it back to 1990s, and not only in the Western context, even in Muslim context and Asian context, quite a few Indian women are producing chick literature. There is critique of post-feminism by quite a few academics available as well. Three major questions that there is are what does the category of popular feminism imply? Popular in a sense that post-feminism is said to be propagated by mainstream media, fashion industry, mainstream media, um, fashion magazines, and stuff. Second objection is, can feminism be political and popular at the same time? Third is, once feminism has become a commodity, that commodity in a sense that women have started to use their beauty and body as a means to make living out of their beauty and body. So even there is a whole debate on legitimizing prostitution, all those stuff where women are taking pride in their bodies and highlighting their beauty. So this is considered as commodification of women. Once feminism has become a commodity, does it still have the power to enforce social change? So the agenda of social change that the feminism started with is seemingly in danger in post-feminism. So now let's move towards the realization of post-feminism in Muslim context. The concept of Islamic post-feminism challenges the notion that frame Muslim women as unhappy, loveless, voiceless victims of patriarchy in Islamic Pakistan. If you are interested in reading more on Islamic post-feminism and especially through literary texts, you may go to my academia.edu page and read some of the recent publications in which I talk about development of the Islamic feminism, Islamic post-feminism, and Islamic feminism as an idea through literary lens. So there is this discursive construction of Islamic post-feminism through the text that are produced by Muslim women living in different geographical conditions. So, what is Islamic post feminism? Or how does Islamic post feminist literature looks alike? What are the features? It is fluid, free-spirited, juvenile version of post-feminism that is simultaneously bold and impressive in its manifestations. And who are producing these sort of texts? They are women who are Muslim by faith, but the course of actions of their lives is not religiously determined. They are living their lives to the full without being fearful of being tagged as good or bad Muslims. They reflect on feminist agenda driven by socio-political realities of the time. Just like any other woman living in any other conditions, they want to celebrate their lives. They believe that they deserve happiness. So Muslim chicklet discourse emerging from the selected works is characterized by innovative diction, emails, confessions, discourses, colorful representation, satire, liberated sexuality, short lived romances, consumer culture, same gender bonding, elitism, and images of modified femininity. Although, these are taboo subjects, and it's sometimes very tricky to be talking about them in Islamic Pakistan. But um, as an academic discourse, this is our responsibility to voice and formulate and bring forth the ideological traditions that are emerging in recent times. Just to wrap up the whole discussion on Islamic post feminism, we'll try quickly going through these few lines. Insufficient and incomplete knowledge of people about Islam makes them believe that Islam is not a female friendly religion. Muslim women are not as downtrodden as they are sensationally presented in international media, literature, and the organizations working for women's rights. So these women are challenging the objectification of Muslim women as marginalized, downtrodden, pitiable creatures. So instead, Muslim women are well informed in their opinions and methods of advocacy, where Quranic principles, female history and experiences, global politics, and family dynamics of women are taken into account to formulate their feminist agenda. So, in nutshell, these women are of the view that we haven't borrowed the concept of feminism from the West. Rather, it's our indigenous identity, and we are exercising this identity, and we are advocating this identity, and we are celebrating this identity as well. So, the concept of Islamic post feminism challenges the notion that frame Muslim women as unhappy, voiceless victims of patriarchy in Islam. So, this sums up somewhat our um, discussion on feminism, its multiple facets, and its realization in different contexts. Just to give you a quick recap of what we discussed in today's session, is that we started with tracing the genealogy or the makeup of the concept feminism, and then we moved on to um, different waves of feminism: first wave, second wave, and third wave. And then we talked about um, post feminism, Islamic feminism, Muslim feminism, along with the critiques of all these facets of feminism and the key critics and influential texts in respective waves and phases of feminism. If you guys have any questions on any of the points that were discussed in today's session, please feel free to comment below the video. We can address them in the coming uh, sessions. Thank you for listening and happy learning.